Yeah, that's all right. Let's go.
You're gonna be on that side, right?
I'm gonna move around. I don't like being constrained. Just like I've already changed what I said in the abstract. So in the abstract, this was like one of the 3 topics. You can do this when you are, one of the cool parts about being an entrepreneur is you can do whatever the fuck you want. The bad news is the market then decides what they feel about that. So there's pluses and minuses to it. The plus to this in this case is I decided to just focus on how to start your own company. I will cover angel investing in there too, because I did mention that in the abstract. But I think a lot of the same principles kind of back to David's talk tie into how to be a better person and the kinds of skill sets that you can also bring back into your own enterprise. All right. Definition of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is someone who will jump off a cliff and then assemble an airplane on the way down. My background, so one thing we didn't cover here. So I've started 3 of each of the possible companies you can have. So a product company, a services company, and a nonprofit. So I've experienced across all the different pieces. Who's heard of the ICS Village? All right, that's us. So I co-founded that with Tom Van Norman, who had the RSA badge. Is he still here? No, he left. Okay. So my disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. And I'm not even the best entrepreneur out there. So you're going to get what you get. So step 1, why would you want to do this to yourself? And by yourself, I mean everybody you know. When you start this journey, you're going to go down a rabbit hole. In your current job, which is, we say 9 to 5, but we all know that's bullshit. Nobody actually gets to work 9 to 5, but it's still not 24/7. When you step out on your own, it will consume you. It will be every waking moment. It will be, I mean, where he talks about being in the elevator and talking to people, you will annoy people in elevators, on buses, in the plane. You will not stop talking about it because it completely consumes you. And anybody who is your friend, anybody who is your family, they're going down this journey with you. They're going to get sick of it too. So step 1 is really understanding your support network. You can have the coolest idea. Is it worth a divorce? Maybe. You know why divorces are expensive? Well, you said yes. Why? Because they're worth it. Punchline, come on. Again, for those who see me talk, you know I will tell the jokes, whether you laugh or not. I can also prompt you as a joke so you can laugh. We can do it either way. So you're not going on this journey alone. Understand your support network. Talk to your spouse, your partner, your friends. Make sure that they understand what you're about to go through, because they are going to go through it with you. Now, they're probably not going to understand it, just like you don't really understand what you're about to embark upon, but this is the first step. Nobody does this alone. And so having an upfront and honest conversation with those folks that are with you, that they're going to be a part of it, is key. There's some seats here if y'all want to come and sit down. You don't have to be right up front. I'm not embarrassing. I'm just comfortable seated. Because the reality where I talked about that you don't know what you're doing is true. You are going to have the honeymoon phase. For about 3 to 6 months, you're going to think this is the greatest time of your life. Because you're free. You're out of the matrix. You're unplugged. You're getting to do all this stuff. You're going to meet all of these people you've never met before. And it's going to be fun conversations. And then the reality of the fact you're not making any fucking money is going to hit hard. Remember we talked about that support network, right? Your spouse is going to really be concerned about the fact that we're not making money now. You had a great cybersecurity job. Now you're not making money. So that's where the reality sets in. And this is the metaphor that I talk about this part of the curve is it's like being a predator in the Serengeti. You are there, you are hungry, you are thirsty, your ribs are sticking out, and you know and you hope there will be a rainy season. You'll get to feast. But until that, that's that whole line there. Is that exploration, that waiting for that to hit to when you get to actually survive. Who loves health insurance? You like having it, right?
We all need it.
We all need it. But who actually loves health insurance? None of you got into this field to learn about health insurance? I'm shocked. What about understanding specific business regulations in 50 different states? No? Guess what? Part of the job. You have to learn this shit. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's boring as fuck. It sucks. You have to learn it though, because you have to take care of your people. You are building an organization. You're going to start by yourself, but you can write. I can go fast alone. I can go further together. You're building a team. Your idea blossoms as you bring other people into that idea, and you have to take care of them. All of that administrative stuff that you take for granted because you're in a large system and there is some HR person or some finance person somewhere in the bowels of this large company that you work at that take care of that for you. But when you become the entrepreneur, that's on you. You have to learn and understand all of that because your ability to take care of your people will come from that, which leads to the fact that there are only 2 qualities to being an entrepreneur. I'm going to throw some guesses out here. Who has some ideas of what it takes to be an entrepreneur?
Maybe crazy. Wardrobe.
Those are
right. He's right.
Yeah, crazy, eccentric. Clearly, those are factors.
But thinking differently.
Thinking differently.
Patience.
Patience.
Risk-taking.
Risk-taking.
Tenacity.
What?
Organized.
Organized. Have you met founders who are not organized? The answer is yes. You can hire someone to be organized for you.
Obsessed.
Obsessed. Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, I like that. Obsessed, patience. Anyone else got something else? You don't have to raise your hands. Oh, just go ahead, shoot out.
Relentless persistence.
Obsessed, relentless. So I think there are only 2 qualities. Actually, I want to address, who said risk-taking? So I don't think this is actually as much of a risk as you think, right? I showed that startup curve. You're like, Bryson, you just told me I'm gonna go broke. You probably will. But here's the thing. You will be eminently employable afterward, right? Let's like look at what are the worst case scenarios here for doing this. Like, of course, everybody's like, well, I IPO, that's great. Most of us aren't gonna do that. I'm not IPOing. I'm gonna become a unicorn in the numerical sense. Not a pony, they don't rank ponies as financial strategy. I'm most likely going to get bought for a few $100 million. I'm going to get bought for about what we've made into it. You're pretty much not going to end up below where you started financially, most likely. I mean, most of the companies that fail get acquired. And from an entrepreneur perspective, that is a level of failure. But think about it. You got something for it. You built a strong network, you built a brand, you built a reputation. You are also going to be eminently employable. So in a way, that period of time, 6 months to 3 years, which is most likely where the failure is going to happen, you probably got promoted into another level. So from a risk-taking perspective, I would actually offer that while there is an element of tactical risk there and your financials, the overall strategic risk really isn't there. You would benefit from this. So I think these are the 2 qualities. So we covered this. Passion. You have to believe in an idea so much that the fact that that idea does not exist is like an itch in your brain every single day. That this is not there is a mark on how stupid the world is. I need to come and set them free. Passion. The second, which was what the previous slide was leading to, is tolerance for bullshit. Patience. Because at the end of the day, everything comes back to you. Everybody looks at the founder, CEO life and is like, oh, the glamour. And you miss the fact you're also the janitor. You have to learn health insurance. You have to clean the toilets. That is your job. And if you can't do that, if you don't have the patience for that, it's not going to work. So what isn't on here? Making a lot of money. Certainly that's a goal, but that's not a quality. If you are doing this to try to make money, you will fail. During that long, hard predator line that I showed on the previous graph, when you have had things that you never expected to have happen to you, and you want to wake up and you're like, I can't believe this is my job, I did this to myself. Making money is not going to be the thing that gets you out of bed. Making money is not going to be the thing that allows you to look at your team and say, let's carry on no matter how hard it is. It is only going to be that passion for that idea that can do it. So if you don't have that passion, you're not ready to take the step. But there are ways to get to that too. We're going to cover those. So this is from Tara Wheeler. This is literally a text exchange I had with her last night. She said, when did I switch from engineer brain to CEO brain? It's like I have the attention span of a gnat. She said, welcome to having to think of everything all at once, constant surprises, and the most context switching ever. So I littered this through with a whole bunch of quotes from some fellow founders. All right, so this is probably the most important thing, and this applies to your work, no matter whether you're an entrepreneur or where you work. And a lot of folks don't really get this. There are only two economic models to any company, period. There's a lot of variability there, but at the core, there's only two models. Either I am service-based or I am product-based. Services, 1 hour of work equals 1 hour of revenue. Whether I get paid $1 for it or $100,000 for it, it is still tied to an FTE of work. Think about that. Because I have folks who are like, oh, we're going to be services differently. You're not. You're going to just try to charge more. That's it. This is typically what we would call a consultancy. Don't confuse the economic models. Product, 1 hour of effort can equal an unlimited amount of return. Because who decides what the return is, what the revenue is?
The market.
The market, right? I have created code, I've created hardware, I have created a thing, and I don't have to keep recreating that thing. I have the thing. What are you willing to pay for it? What are you willing to pay for it? That's where the scale comes in. And this is going to be important because this is also going to determine how we run our company, what kind of company we're going to build, and of course, whether we raise money. But every organization is around these two economic models. And inside an organization, you can have both economic models. It is certainly beneficial for a product company to have a small services element. Consulting, training. Okay, so we're going to start with services. I'm not going to give, because of time, a whole bunch on just how to run your own consultancy. Ted Demopoulos, I'm not Greek. Ted Demopoulos wrote a book called The Guide to InfoSec Consulting. It's 100 and some pages. It goes through detail of how to run a consulting company. There you go. You want to run a consulting company? Read the book. Products. How many products are there in cybersecurity? A few? Yeah, it's like there's been this Cambrian explosion of products. There's products for your products. Yes. Right? And we get folks like Gartner being like, you know what, how we're going to handle all this? We need more. We need more. Well, no, now we need it to be a platform play. Your product doesn't work by itself. Now it needs to be a platform, right? So why? Why are there so many products?
People are greedy.
People are what?
Greedy.
Greedy?
Greedy.
Oh, creative. But they were creative before?
They like great.
So,
Brothers.
But that creativity has exploded in cybersecurity in about the last 10 years. Why? Why?
Because cybersecurity has become very expensive.
What?
Because cybersecurity became very expensive for companies.
Because all the products now aren't solving the problems.
Sorry, say that, Joe.
The products now aren't solving the problems.
Products now are solving the problems. Well, has anybody solved security?
No.
Nope. Greatest job ever, right, folks? You can't get fired. You can get rift as we do like the tactical adjustments, but literally, cybersecurity is an unsolved problem. Nobody has solved it. Don't worry, AI is not going to solve it either. Because you're going to have their AI too, so it's going to be AI on AI. You're just going to have to learn a new job. Cybersecurity is unsolved. But what happened 10 years ago? So David in his talk, I think people missed it because he didn't quite emphasize it enough, is this space is really young. And he commented on Cisco firewalls in 1998. Until about 2000, plus or minus, commercial firewalls were not like a common thing. Organizations did not go, your network is different from your network until 20 years ago. So that's our first milestone. Second milestone is Target in 2012. What happened with Target? But more importantly, what was the result of them getting breached? But we'd had breaches publicized before, but that was the first time that it looked like the executives at the top might be liable. Liability changes things, doesn't it? Yeah.
The budget just grew.
That's when the budget was created. Yeah. Until 2012, we had that creativity. We had the nerds going, this could happen, and we didn't get the money. We're good. You got firewalls and AV. What else do you need? That was the entire market 10 years ago. Target changed that. Target was the first time that businesses looked at that and go, oh, that could, like, we don't want to go to jail. We don't want to be financially liable. It wasn't that companies hadn't been breached before, but it was the first time it actually changed in executive behavior at the leadership level. There are only two kinds of companies in the world, folks. Leadership cares, leadership doesn't. Who works at a company where leadership doesn't care? What's that like every day?
All day, every day.
What's it like?
Very stressful.
It's very stressful because you try to fix a problem and you're not supported, are you? Yep. Stop trying. Realistically, why are you beating your head against the wall? Second question, why are you still there? You can vote with your feet. So this is why the market has exploded in the last about 10 years, because that money is now there. The budgets are there. Now, what are the budgets for? That's a different question. But the fact that there's now this large cybersecurity budget is a thing. We talk about CISOs all the time. CISOs are, again, not an old position. The common example of a CISO is, again, about 10 years old. So recognizing that, when we look at products and ideas, this is what we're used to looking at. And that can seem intimidating from an entrepreneurial perspective, because every problem's been solved. Look at all the boxes.
Oh, yeah.
But is it? No. Are they doing them well? We already know this hasn't solved the problem, which means opportunity. Do you want to say something?
Oh, no.
Okay. So don't be intimidated by this, recognizing that there are yet still more boxes to be filled in all this white space. And even in that space, there's a lot more to it. One of my favorite examples, and they've grown from this because this is really good trajectory, and I really should get a quote from him, is, who's heard of gray noise? Gray noise started basically as a one-trick pony. I don't mean that in a mean way, but he did something really well. One thing, and they did it really well. And they just looked at the problem and said, one of the problems, because security is just a data engineering problem, if you think about it. It's just data engineering. Can I get the data where I need it, when I need it, to find what I want to find? That's what we're trying to do. Now, we're trying to do that in a preventative way or detective way, but it's data engineering. And so Andrew looked at that problem and said, well, one of the challenges is we have all this noise out in the environment of what actually is a threat. What is threat behavior like actually? And he just came up with the null hypothesis. Let's just knock out all the things that aren't actually threats in that noise. That's where they started, gray noise. One thing. You don't have to solve all the problems. Pick one thing that has value and do that. And then you're going to learn and pivot and grow from there. But you don't have to solve, you don't have to boil the ocean. Pick one thing. Again, there's going to be plenty more budgets and boxes. Again, we are in the greatest space of all time. Nobody else has this advantage where literally no one will ever solve this problem. Say, what is the idea? So the point of this slide is so many folks are like, I've got an idea, but I'm afraid to share it. You're going to steal my idea if I tell you. If you can steal my idea from me talking to you for a few minutes and do it better than me, probably wasn't your idea to begin with. You need to share your idea. Because when you get out, there's going to be a point where everybody knows your idea because your whole job is going to be, I have a thing. And if somebody can just copy that and do it better, then you're going to get there anyway. Share your idea. Talk to people. Talk to them again. Talk. Because that's where you sharpen your idea. There are going to be things you didn't think about. You're also going to build connections to people with money, whether they're an investor or they're a potential buyer. And that's typically the part where a lot of folks get scared as a product entrepreneur is like, how do I get my product first sold? Don't worry about trying to sell it at first. Just worry about getting ideas. And by talk, I mean listen. You're not there to just preach at, hey, this is the greatest thing of all time, and then like watch them shut down. Engage them. Get their opinion. What do you think? I went through this iteration myself when I told you the origin story, which we won't repeat here while we're recording. But after I first had that idea and I started co-developing it with Target for 2.5 years, I was like, well, I think this is an idea. I'm going to go talk to folks. And nobody understood what I was saying. I didn't know how to describe what I was building. I knew engineering-wise what I was building, but that's not the same thing as explaining. And that's not the same thing as connecting to someone and them understanding what's the point of that, what's the value of that. It was hundreds of conversations where I would be like, oh, okay, this really frustrating conversation seemed to have finally taken a turn when I said this one word. I'm going to try that again. And then I pieced that together into sentences. And over time, I was eventually able to understand how the market really reflected my idea because I had all of those conversations that were so frustrating. It would be, it's like, this is a story that's told about how Henry Ford was asked, why did you build the car? Didn't you go talk to a bunch of farmers about it? Because I mean, at the time, we were in a world completely run by horses. He's like, why am I going to do that? They're going to just tell me to build a faster horse. And think about that mindset of trying to describe a car to somebody who's only ever seen horses. Like, so the hooves are made of rubber? I don't understand, right? Like, what's an engine? Like, I'm putting that in the horse's mouth? Like, I mean, it sounds silly, but this is the pain you have to go through because that's going to be, if you really have an innovative idea, how far from reality anyone is going to be to understanding it. This is why so many startups cheat. And they're just like, we're like the Uber for this. Well, but everybody understands Uber. That's why. They pick these really simple concepts of things people already understand and try to like do that. And it kind of works sometimes. I mean, if you are in fact the Uber of something, which was an entire category, the gig economy plus dog, gig economy plus ice cream. I mean, it's been a thing, right? And then the final thing I want to emphasize here, the best tech doesn't win. No one cares you have the best tech. No one cares it's the coolest thing. Does it make my life easier? Does it make something better? We, particularly those who have a really strong engineering background, we get really excited about our own tech. We get really excited about the code we're building. And this is part of why talking and listening is so important, because you can learn how that code actually can solve a real problem, not just solve the problem you see in your closet, in your garage, with your blinders on. So it's really common to want to start a company with somebody else. It's a lonely road to do it alone. And I will also tell you, as a solo founder, a lot of VCs really like seeing twos, because one person's the business person and one person's the tech person. Really simple. It's like the Uber of investing. I'll come back around on the jokes too. So starting with your best friend seems like a great idea. What's the risk?
You are no longer allowed to make decisions by yourself. That's the person I can mind.
Yeah, every relationship ever, right? You're now with somebody else.
Yep.
And what else?
You can lose your friendship.
You can lose your friendship. Why?
Because things get tough.
Because things get tough. Things could fail. Most likely it will fail with the definition we gave earlier. That friendship is gone. And it's harder when it's with the friend. Because what if that friend doesn't meet expectation? Right? It's not going to be any of you. You're all the smartest people of all time. But that person you decide to do it with, what if they don't turn out to be at your level? And it's hard to have that conversation. Plus, now it's not just a conversation of like, hey, bro, like, really need that project in on Friday. It's, oh, you own half of this and you suck. That's a hard conversation. And now there's something significant involved, particularly the flip side of failure is success, where that person didn't earn it. How do you work that out? So again, just like I talked about, you don't do this alone. Even if you do it alone, you're not doing it alone. Same thing with a co-founder. Have the upfront conversations. And the best advice I can give you here is wait to decide the equity of the company. There is no requirement, there is no law that says you have to both own 50-50 today. You don't have to do that. So wait and see, particularly if there's more than two of you, right? 3 or 4 is an even bigger piece. So wait, decide milestones in advance. Hey, 6 months, 12 months, whenever we actually make some fucking money, let's then at that point decide how much we should each get going forward. Don't straitjacket yourself right out of the gate. You don't need to. And here's the other thing. What does success look like? Your definition of success is going to be different than your definition of success. And it's going to be the same for your founders. Again, we're not doing this because money is the goal. Again, it's nice to make money. We hope we do, because that is what allows us to keep the idea going. But there's other definitions of success, and those go back to those milestones.
I think it comes from the passion. So like when you're coming up with the idea, right, you kind of envision what it is, and I guess somehow through that, right, you kind of see what the end goal is.
Yeah.
And from this to this.
Yeah.
And I guess whoever defines that can define that success.
And that's a joint exercise, right? What is that? And recognize you have no idea what you're talking about anyway, because whatever you think it is today is not going to be what you think it is in 6 months.
It isn't more.
Well, because everything changes.
Okay.
No, not even. No, the market is this large thing that's out there in the world that you really isn't a part. You're not a part of yet, right? You're going to be just trying to get this little piece of things. And this is the other part, because when people talk about markets, they think about, well, I shouldn't do this right now because the economy is bad, right? Right now, the economy is bad, isn't it? Or is it? Do we know? Yeah, because it's not black and white. And when you are trying to carve out a little piece of something, you don't have to worry about the whole ocean. You're going to have just your little boat, your little space. Be the best sailor there with whomever you're sailing with, right? And so that definition of success is going to be where you are in that period of time. Don't worry about the big ocean. Quote from Elisa Miller. Write down your vision and mission early. So write it down. Why are you launching this business? How do you plan to achieve that goal? Then anytime you encounter a tough business decision where you are having trouble deciding, look back to your vision and mission and choose the option that helps you accomplish those. Stay grounded. All right, incorporation. You have to have a legal entity to do this. Trust me, the IRS will actually have an opinion. Also, just because you don't make money doesn't mean you don't have to file taxes. Learned that one myself. Zero, they care about zero. They still want you to say, we made zero. And they want you to prove that you made zero. So there's 3 basic legal structures: limited liability corporation, S corporation, or C corporation. The most common place to start once you have an idea is an LLC. It's very cheap, it's very simple. It's just the beginning container, the legal container that you are beginning with this idea. You can convert it later when you have money to pay lawyers. For now, I always recommend start simple. And then whatever you think your really cool name is, check that that name is actually available. You never want to pick a name that conflicts. Of course, people point out to me, like, because SCYTHE actually has multiple conflicts. There is a board game named SCYTHE. There is SCYTHE Robotics. We have people all the time call our customer support asking about the board game and asking about the robot. So this is why if you've ever seen all those ridiculous, stupid names where it's like a kludge, you know, a portmanteau of two different things and like a weird letter in there, that's why they're doing it. They're trying to create a unique thing where if somebody types that into a search bar, I am guaranteed to get you. But check name availability first. Also, there's two different levels of this. There's your legal name, which is only required for legal stuff, and then there's what's called doing business as. So, for example, SCYTHE is actually not our legal name. That is what doing business as. That is our trade name. Want to know what our real name is?
Yes.
Smart Motherfucking Products Incorporated.
No way.
I got the idea when I started GRIMM. The real legal name of GRIMM is Smart Motherfuckers. Best part about this, no, wait, you're gonna love this. I'm serious, this is 100% true. Every time I had to disclose to the government, I made our rank structure level of motherfucker. And so when I disclosed to any time to government, I had to show salaries. That's how I would have those ranks. You can have a sense of humor in this stuff, right? Nobody makes the rules, you make the rules. It's just a question of, can you live up to those rules, and do your clients? Like I explained the GRIMM logo earlier. I got a really strong reaction to that logo. It was memorable. Everybody remembered the logo. Show it to you again. Yeah. That was my first time doing logos. It sticks out. You don't forget it. Well, not everybody thinks it's cool. So there were folks who were like, it's childish, it's cartoonish, it's stupid, it's puerile, sophomoric. I mean, I could go down negative adjectives. Point being is I saw it as memorable, and two is I saw it as a Rorschach test. Folks who are in our space instantly thought that was cool. They got it. The folks who we didn't want to do business with didn't. But recognizing this when you're looking at branding, when you're looking at logo, when you're looking at name, when you're looking at how you present yourself, you can't appeal to everybody, but who do you want to appeal to? How do I get the attention of the folks that do matter? And there's also a difference even in our space, right? Because I'm gonna hazard you are likely an engineer, and you think that's cool.
Yes.
Your bosses who actually have money, because I'm assuming you don't, may not think that's cool. There's a balance, right? So legal structure, this is with the IRS. Names are also going to be with the IRS, and at the state level, with the IRS, you will get what's called an employee identification number. So just like you have a social security number, your company has its own social security number. When you incorporate it in a state, there are clever states to incorporate in. My recommendation, just pick the state you're in, because you're going to have to do that anyway. With your corporation, most people like Delaware because it has the most business-friendly laws. Again, you're not there yet, right? These are like 5-year down success problems. Start in your own state. Just keep it easy, because if you don't, you're going to incorporate in Delaware, and then you're going to have to incorporate in Florida anyway to do business there. So you're going to you have to register to do business as, which is the same thing. So just pick the state you're in. These are clever ones for different reasons. You are welcome to explore them.
But that depends on what kind of services or products you're actually planning.
Which is why I'm not spending a whole lot of time on it and just saying, incorporate where you are. There are other clever ways to approach it.
Because if you're a product company, you want to find investors, probably Delaware is a good idea. But if you're just doing services local, it's definitely better. Investors aren't going to care that much about that. Some might,
some can, but it isn't going to be the defining factor. It's going to be one of those administrative components.
Yeah, there is some kind of legal, favor of deliver from.
Yes, as I noted, it has business-friendly rules.
Yeah.
You may also have to do something at your county level. This is, again, the fact we are in a federal country, and so there are different rules at different levels. The county level is going to literally depend on your own county. They might want you to have to do tax returns there. They may want to know that you do business there. They may not. Again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, I'm not even an investment entrepreneur. Just things to consider. And then something else to throw out there, because this is free, it doesn't cost a lot. The US government has lots of money. Lots of money. More money than you can even think about. And they want to spend it on things. So to be able to do business with the US government only requires you to have what's called a cage code from SAM. So sam.gov. You go in, you register, you fill out a bunch of annoying things. You have to annually refresh it. You get a 6-digit code from them. And then the same thing, get a DUNS number from Dun & Bradstreet, also free. These are just little administrative tasks that when you do them, you're already set where if an opportunity does come up, because you potentially explore like, oh, I saw that DARPA put out some grant thing option or an SBIR. We're going to talk about that shortly. This is what allows you to participate in those things. Because who wouldn't want to get $50,000 with no strings attached, right? That's the kind of stuff that the government has available, let alone the fact you could potentially get your first 7-digit contract from a US government entity. That's all it requires at a minimum. Something simple to do as you're standing up the initial administrative overhead, just go knock it out. There are also special designations. If you fit one of these 5 categories, this applies definitely to government, but there are a lot of large commercial organizations that also look for these designations because they want to take credit. So if there's 2 of you that are competing for the same budget with potentially slightly different ideas, that designation can be the difference. So be aware that you might qualify for designation, understand that it has commercial impact too. So to raise or not to raise, that is the question. Everybody gets to this point, right? Should I get lots of money from somebody who now also is going to get a vote because they've been there, done that? If you're a product company, maybe. If you're a services company, most likely not. Why not? Remember the economic models?
Because it's a one-for-one.
Because it's a one-for-one. Why would I give up some of that for somebody to give me money to invest in it? If you were starting a consultancy, organically grow based on your success. I make money, I hire that second person. We make money, we hire that third person. And you just grow organically that way. Why would I say, hey, I'm giving you half the company for $2 million, and what am I going to do with $2 million? You can't invest that in people because they're just going to be people who don't have work until you go get them work. So why do that, right? So I put it as probably not because there's always an edge condition. Nothing in life is absolute, but most likely you're not going to want to do this. Product companies are, because a product company is a lot of capital expenditure, time, resource, for a period of time to build something to the point where it eventually makes money. If I'm building a product, this is likely a 1-year, 2-year, 5-year effort of building something, learning, and then getting it to that point, that minimum viable product that someone finally says, yes, now I'm willing to give you money. Until that point, your product is not making money. One of the economic approaches that folks sometimes do with this is they try to build this, and then they also go and do consulting at the same time so that they're bringing in income. I was fortunate, and I'd already built up a pretty large services company and then had somebody approach me and say, hey, build this thing. And I then incubated that inside our consulting company as an R&D project. So I was able to spend my own money to R&D through the product phase. But the reason I went and brought investors in wasn't because of money. I realized I knew absolutely jack shit about commercial software sales. I know how to build things. I kind of know how to talk to people. You're all still here. But that's not the same thing as actually scalable sales. Scalable sales. It's really hard to say. Selling scalably. So I brought an investment because I figured it would be cheaper for me to give up some equity to have people who really knew what they were doing to coach me. That is the other value of this. And so my core investors were, actually one of the names was dropped earlier, Ron Gula, who created Tenable, listed IPO, and then Dmitry Alperovich, who co-founded CrowdStrike. That, getting to be able to talk to those folks and actually have them return my phone calls seems like a worthwhile reason to take their money. Types of investors. So there are two really VC types, right? Venture capital. The one that you want to talk to are VC funds. These are folks who have put a fund together and they are completely focused on this. The reason I'm saying this is you're going to learn the hard way when you go down this road that you're going to meet a lot of folks who are not even interested from the start in investing in you. But you won't know that until you talk to them. And these are the private equity, growth equity folks. These folks have $10 billion funds. Your first time asking for money, you're probably gonna be like, can I have $1 to $3 million? And they're like, we don't write checks that small. They don't. Like the smallest check size we write is $100 million. And you're like, oh. I mean, I'll take it. And like, but you can't do it. You literally can't put that money into place. Like just sit there and think about how much money that is. You can't actually put it into play. And you don't want to because, I mean, even if they gave that to you, which would never happen, that is now a burden you have to carry. That is a millstone that you have to actually put into place. But it's not going to stop the 23-year-old Stanford graduate who is smarter than you and condescending as hell from getting a 30-minute meeting with you. Your most valuable attribute during all this is going to be time. And you're going to find that quickly exhausting. In the beginning, you're going to be like, nobody wants to talk to me. Then you're going to find everybody wants to talk to you. And once you kind of get out there, you're going to start to find that there are folks that you really shouldn't talk to. So your primary interest is the folks that have funds. And you can Google this. You can look up like cybersecurity VC funds, and you will find the kinds of folks you want to talk to. Or more simply, tied to networking, is talk to folks who are also founders because they can tell you who the funds to talk to, and they can broker a warm introduction for you. Typically, though, getting smaller is angels. Who's heard of angel investing, right? So angels are typically a former entrepreneur, most likely, who will write you small checks. It's like, hey, I need to get started. I really got this far on the idea. I feel like I need about 6 to 12 months of runway. I think I could probably live on hot dogs and baked beans for this amount of time. My buddy's willing to do it at that same rate. Can we get $200,000? And you can find 3 or 4 people to band that together, and you now have raised money and gotten started with some of the local risk out. That's what an angel provides. Friends and family, same kind of thing. There's also incubators who will give you space and connections. Some incubators take equity though, so be aware. Others are at different cost, so something to be aware of. I'm confident there are a number of incubators here in Miami, probably because of all the cryptocurrency investment that I see going in here. I'm sure there's even more. I just moved to St. Petersburg near Tampa in January, and so I've already started to see some of the cybersecurity and IT incubators up there. So I'm confident that they're in most cities. I just don't know the ones here specifically. And then I mentioned this earlier. So SBIR is a small business investment from the US government. These are $50,000 to $250,000 opportunities that different agencies put out, basically saying, we're looking for innovation from the private sector. We are interested in these things. Again, you have a SAM code, you have a DUNS number, you can submit. They will not take anything from you. They just basically want to get you to what's called a phase 1. Show us 3 to 6 months of work for 50 to 250K toward the idea we're interested in. If they like it, then they will give you more money. And their whole goal is to invest in you to your idea eventually coming into the US government. So another option out there to get money. That one's a little more difficult though, just because you have to write a government proposal, you have to go through the government process, but 50 to 250K for that, 3 to 6 months of work, It's not so bad. All right, so being an angel. Step one, you are building the next generation, you are not running it. Everyone in here has likely the potential to be an angel. Whether that is now or the future, depending on your own financial state. The key is recognizing you are writing a small check to get somebody going. You're there to support, you're there to coach, but you don't have a vote. You're not getting significant equity. You're not founding this company. You're just helping somebody take that step along being an entrepreneur. So how do you do this, right? How would I be an angel? Well, the starting point is you actually need to be able to see deals. Folks need to come to you and talk to you about the idea that they're potentially going to be doing. I'm willing to bet at this conference, there are probably several people who are already in an ideation stage. Only way to know that is by talking to them. And then recognizing that, hey, I like your idea, I'd love to follow up. I've never been an angel before, I might be interested in doing that. I always recommend investing what you know. I think we've all seen stories, and they're up on the silver screen, where somebody invests in some harebrained scheme because they don't really understand the tech, they don't really understand the industry. My recommendation, again, go back to the fact that there is near unlimited money continuing to come into cybersecurity. Stick with what you understand. Don't invest in swampland in Florida. Invest in something that is in your space or adjacent to your space. One, you'll know what you're doing. Two, you can be more helpful. You actually understand it. You know things about it. You know people around that. That is valuable as an angel because you're now tied to something that you can connect with. Of course, now the final piece is like, yeah, Bryson, I'm not a multi-billionaire. Neither am I. Look at the way I dress. That was a joke. I dress okay. Thank you. Jesus. So my recommendation is think of things in increments of $25,000, right? This is what you're going to be doing for this. So 25, 50, 25 is the number. You're probably going to be like, I don't have 25. You can actually repurpose your IRA to turn it into the ability to invest, to do angel investing. Now, right? This is not legal advice. This is not accounting advice. This is not financial advice. That is risky, right? I talked about being an entrepreneur as some amount of risk. This is you actually playing with your nest egg for retirement. So I'm only pointing out it's an option. You really, really need to think strongly before doing it. So just noting that that is an option, that you actually do have money for those kinds of things. Any questions on Angel?
On the previous slide, there was the SBIR, does it apply to nonprofit organizations or only
I think anybody can go for it.
So
So a 501c3 is a different designation than an LLC, an S, or a C Corp, right? A 501c3 is just a nonprofit designation the IRS applies to add to whatever your legal designation is. So 501c3, 501c4, 501c6 all have very specific mission goals that you have to declare to the IRS, and then you have to execute your business that way. From an SBIR perspective, they don't care.
So we know you're a unicorn.
I'm not, but personally, yes.
Are you also an angel?
Yes, I've invested in 10 companies. Full disclosure, I invested in Greynorth, which is how I know that one really well. Is there more to that, or?
No.
Yeah, there is only one company that I invested in that's outside of cybersecurity, called Inventor. And the reason I invested in them is they struck me as like a combination of, let's see how to describe them. They found a way to make like interactive videos. And I just thought that was a really neat kind of next step for where we're going in storytelling and advertising and being able to speak to all of this stuff. That unlocking that to make that easy to do as opposed to a whole production, right? That's a cost savings. That's time and expertise a lot of folks don't have. And what is really neat about that is they have the ability to, based on metadata, serve a specific story to you versus you. And then of course you can change the story. Now start tying that into a buying experience. So I just thought that was really neat. It's outside of my bailiwick, but it is tech enabled, which is why I invested in it. All right, so you're going to raise. You're going to need to create what's called a pitch deck. And this is from Ron Gula. There's the link. I'm sure my slides are available afterwards, but I've got 10 minutes. Okay. So all the links work, hopefully. And he says these are the 5 things you want in a pitch deck. So first off, what is the problem? Do this in one slide. If you cannot explain the problem in one slide, you don't understand the problem. It's too much, right? If you can't dial it into here is the problem. And again, this is what we want to spend all of our time talking about. We want to spend our time talking about the really cool thing we are going to build and how we're going to do it, not complaining about here's the state of affairs. So one slide, knock it down, got your attention, here's something you care about. How? My solution to it. That can be more than one slide, but again, going back to all those conversations we needed to have to refine that, you need to have it dialed in. You're most likely, when you pitch this to an investor, they are not as tech savvy, but they have seen thousands of things. And that same problem about being described what you built that never existed before, you're going to struggle there with them. This is going to take some time, so you really want to have this dialed in. And then the proof. Okay, you said you got something. Prove it to me. Do you have a beta? Do you have customers? Do you have folks who are just using it for free, which are good references and also good feedback from the market? This is a part that it's surprising. Most people actually miss. You are making an ask. I want funding. Do not have them ask you, how much do you want? You should have it in the slide. Come into it understanding already how much money you're looking for. $1 million, $1.5 million, 3, 700 million. Put the number there. Have a plan for it. Justify that number, right? You're asking them to give you money. Tell them how much money you want and how you're going to use it. And then your vision, right? Going back to our criteria for success, what's the schedule? This money enables us to do this on this schedule. They know the schedule's as bullshit as you know it is, because you don't know what you're doing. That's fine. They're looking to see your thinking. So many folks get caught up in all this stuff with trying to go like, well, I needed to have defined like addressable market. I have to have all this stuff figured out. Nobody expects you to have the right answer. What they are doing is they're measuring you and your thinking and your analysis. Is this somebody that actually thinks through problems and can present them? That's half of what they're evaluating. Then they're going to evaluate the content of what you provided, but they're evaluating you. And then the final piece, I put this here as an asterisk, is your team. If you have a team, because you're most likely not trying to raise money as a coder of one, brag about your team. Why is this the greatest team of all time? Why is this the team that is going to solve this problem with this, got us this far, and is going to execute as I'm saying? Brag about your team. You're not doing this alone. Do it over and over again. When we have graduated to the point that we have a pitch deck, this is now what you annoy everybody that you ever meet with. Pitch, practice, talk about it, refine it, get better at it. Planes, trains, and automobiles, in your sleep, annoy your friends. Practice, because you do not get a do-over when you actually get that meeting with a person with money. You kind of get one shot. You either do well enough that there's going to be a follow-on, or that's it. When you get there, you need to be confident in what you're doing. Practice. Okay, so the process is biased. So, friend Katie Masouras, I assume most people know who she is. Everything cis-het white male founders tell you probably will not work for you if you are not in that group. That's me. And it was a really hard and difficult process for me. There is a bias to these folks. It is an insular community. Chances are they don't know who you are and they don't care. Getting a meeting with them takes a lot of work. Getting them to give you money from that meeting, even if all the things are lined up about how great your idea is going to be hard. Most of the money is in the West Coast, Silicon Valley, and they have a valley bias. When I was first trying to raise money, if I could even get them to talk to me, because they were like, you're an East Coast national security guy who's never done a product, get the fuck out. If I got past that, they'd be like, well, are you moving to Silicon Valley? Well, no, I'm good here. And they're like, no. It's an insular community. Tech bros. We have tech bro problem, not even in investing here in this community. They like tech bros because it's all relationship based. People,
What's a tech bro?
it is, actually, I'm going to throw it out. Who wants to define a tech bro? Somebody who's not a white guy. What's a tech bro? Do you want to throw what a tech bro is? You can throw them under the bus as hard as possible. No. Tech bros are kind of the douchey pop collar types, right? You see them, it's kind of like the tech version of the New York City finance bro.
The frat bro who knows how to program, maybe.
And they kind of run in a circle. They are a lot of the problem that is in our community. They're also a faction of investing. And if you do not talk like them, if you do not look like them, bro, you out. It's an insular community. Finding your people. So not every investment firm is the right firm for you. There is no harder moment than when you've done 50 meetings and someone goes, I'm going to give you some money. And you're like, I don't want it. You did all of that work because they're not the right fit. So really look at who you're taking money from. Do not be afraid to say no. And I know that is so hard because when you are on that journey, you will have gone through a lot. I've never met anybody who got money on the first meeting from anybody. So most likely you had to do multiple meetings. You probably started to have some doubt. And you get told no a lot. They're not even nice about it. Or they ghost you. It's always fun being ghosted. So it's okay to turn down money. Do your reference checking. Taking money from somebody is like getting married. And I made the joke about divorce, but there is no pretty divorce to somebody when you've taken their money. It's a business. Just like we had the same problem of going to business with our friends. You're now inviting somebody that you've only met a few times the same way. And you are now going to have to go through all the ups and downs of everything you're going to go through for years with this person or this set of people. Do not be afraid to say no if it doesn't feel right. Okay, so addressable market. Who's heard this concept before? You're going to be asked this question at the beginning. You've got this great idea, that's cool. How many people in the world are going to buy that? What is this idea worth? This is why people do Uber. And they typically do this top-down thing. Well, I believe there is, according to Gartner, there's $3 billion for IAM. And my idea is going to do this, so I'm going to get $200 million. Look how smart this idea is. I only needed to do 8% of that to make money. That is the most common approach everybody does. And everybody knows it's garbage. And it's hard in the beginning because you don't have the proof points, but what you want to do is build up. I know that there are probably this many customers who are actually willing to pay this amount of money. That is my actual addressable market. I'll share it with SCYTHE because I walked down this, not the wrong way, I went the hard way though. I built a red team product. Anybody have any idea the size of the red team product market? Just guess. It's almost zero. Almost zero. Does anyone know how big the red team market is though? $3 billion globally. Nobody spends money on tools in red team. Nobody. There's no budget for it. How many companies in the world even have red team budget? Maybe 5,000? Yeah, but I mean, but it's not big. This is not a big market. That's understanding addressable market. It took me 3 years to figure that out. What's even more painful is after I spent days finally figuring it out as I was refining my pitch deck for my A round, is it then took me another 2 years to be able to actually implement that, because there's a big difference between having something in your head and having a whole team that's been going a direction actually understand and incorporate that. Just sharing, this is going to be a question you've got, the kind of thinking you want to get to, and it's okay that you don't have the answer to